Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears and the Museum of Malfunctioning Motors. We are here with the Miata, and it is so good to be back in the garage after so many weeks outside in the dirt, working on the trailer, working on the truck. Today is going to be an interesting day because I've got some ambitious plans for this car, and I have only really one day to work with. You see, I have a long-term project here on my left. It is my 76 Triumph TR7, and it is stuck because I can't afford to put brakes on this thing. So it's going to sit here until I can afford it, which will be God knows how long. So that means here in the other bay, this is going to be for kind of emergencies or for short-term storage for my Prelude. So I need to get this done today. And also, another reason I need to get this done today is because my wife has to go back to work. So we've got some ambitious plans. So what are those plans? Well, first, we do have some maintenance items that we have to take on. Since my last Miata video, the car has been kind of stumbling a little bit at idle. It's a little bit of a misfire. I really want to diagnose that because, quite frankly, it's annoying. I don't know if it's a bad ground. I don't know if it is valve leak. So we have to do a lot of diagnostic before we start turning wrenches. And that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I have no idea what the problem is. The next issue is that this car, when you're running at very low speeds, it kind of bucks when you're kind of trying to keep up with traffic. That's kind of normal for an older manual transmission, but it's definitely more pronounced since I advanced the timing. So I'm probably going to take a little bit of timing out, which is a little bit of a bummer because this car accelerates so nicely now. It feels so good when you put your foot into it. But at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a commuter, and if it is terrible to commute in, it's just going to be terrible to be in. Speaking of terrible to be in, there's a couple of interior projects I want to take on. If you remember a few weeks ago, my Escondido Cars and Coffee video, I had a little bit of a let's call it a wardrobe malfunction.
Fart like my grandpa. Oh, good, he's got the tow hook on it. That's good.
Yeah, so when I was parking the car, I wanted to give the throttle just a little bit of a blip just to show off how terrible it sounded. And the accelerator pedal got stuck in the carpet. So it just went pegging the red line. It just went bouncing off the red line until I had to shut the car off. It was actually quite embarrassing. I mean, the whole car was an embarrassment to begin with, so I don't know why I was embarrassed, but I guess it just added to the fun of why I was there. But at the same time, this is a real issue that I need to fix. So I'm going to remove the carpet, and while I'm in there, I've got some Dynamat that I want to put down because I want to kind of start to make the car feel a little less crappy. I mean, this is a long way to go for it to not be a completely shitty car, but I want it to feel a little less crappy. So I'm going to put some Dynamat down, and then I'm going to respray the carpet, make it nice and black again. Same with the seats, respray the seats, and put it all back together, and hopefully it'll feel a little bit better. To try to fix the throttle sticking issue, I'm going to use some Super 77 or Super 90 or whatever I have on the shelf, spray down the back of the carpet, press it into the floor, and hopefully that will solve the problem in the long term. So let's get started. I don't have a lot of time, so I gotta move fast. This is as far as I care to tear down the interior of this car. I'm just going to lift this carpet up to Dynamat and then put it back down, and I'll mask things off to spray it. You can see I've removed everything in the back, though. I've removed all the stuff around the seat belts down there just to make the carpet easier to pull up and to expose some of the areas that I would like to Dynamat. Now, the real benefit with Dynamat, you don't want to just throw it all over everything. I mean, you certainly can, but you're just kind of wasting material. To make the most effective use of your Dynamat, you want to just kind of go through and tap on all of your panels and listen for a hollow sound. You see here, that sounds kind of hollow, but that does not. So this is the difference you want to listen for. Something like that versus something like that. So I'm definitely going to put some Dynamat along this ridge up here. I'm going to try to avoid the bolts. I may just kind of mock this panel in, the panel that goes over this. I may just kind of mock it, lay it in there so that I don't kind of cause any interference. But that's kind of what I'm going to go through and do. So definitely don't want to put any there, because that's really structurally strong. That is not causing any vibrations whatsoever. But underneath the carpet, it's kind of a safe bet that we're going to have a bit of that going on. You have this stuff here, but it's not that good. You hear that? It's just like really loud and booming. So this is definitely going to have to get some Dynamat. And I'm going to pull up this crappy material here. It's disgusting anyway, so it's all going to come up, and we're going to put Dynamat in its place, and we're going to kind of do that and figure out where we need to lay it down. And obviously we have the seats out here. We're going to spray the seats outside probably, and we have the other interior trim pieces that I removed over here in my paint booth, ready for some spray downs. I've got the carpet here, and then interior pieces there. I'm going to get some trim black and spray that all down while I have it out. I may as well. I'm just going to regret it if I don't. These pieces, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep. I may toss them, but you know, it might not help to have a little bit of extra insulation. And if I decide to keep them, I'm going to spray them down. Well, that was disgusting. This is just the passenger side. I'm pretty sure this is just like pure asbestos here. It's like house insulation. I was not expecting that much of it to be in there. It was the majority of the material that was actually in there. You see around this plug, there is a little bit of kind of tarred down material. That's what I was expecting, because that stuff was all over my Prelude. There was about 40 pounds of that stuff in my Prelude. But not here. There is pretty much nothing aside from that disgusting crap. I'm really surprised at how good the condition of this floor is in. I was expecting a lot more rust. It is pretty wavy, like pretty sure it's not supposed to come up in the middle here. So this car has been abused, but it's okay. It's gonna get taken care of now. So this is pretty good. I'm gonna wipe it down with a damp rag, and then I'll be able to lay some Dynamat. The driver's side is more or less the same. It is a little bit more complicated because of the pedals, but I got pretty far up. I don't really care to go all the way up to the firewall. It's not that important. I just want to get underneath the feet, and there is plenty of room that once I'm done, I'll be able to spray behind the pedal over there to kind of stick it to the side of the car. So this over here, the transmission tunnel, this is what I'm talking about when I say you want to listen and tap on it. So not only do you hear a really deep hollow sound, but you hear it echoing throughout the car. So this is definitely a spot that is going to be thoroughly dynamated. I've got the passenger compartment about as good as I care to get it. You see in the back here, I've just kind of got a strip and a patch, and that's because right here, it's really solid. There's going to be no extra noise coming in as a result of that being exposed. Underneath here, it's a bit of a different story. I've got the floorboards really well covered, and I've got the transmission tunnel especially well covered. There's probably a patch there that I could add a little bit more to. I may do that off camera. Up in the front there, you see I have that sandbag, and that is because behind the carpet, I removed the house insulation that was there, gave myself asbestos poisoning probably, and replaced it with Dynamat. That is up against the transmission tunnel, and then I sprayed the hell out of everything with Super 77 in an attempt to get that carpet stuck up against the side of the transmission tunnel. And I've got the sandbag on there to kind of hold it in place, hoping that it'll actually stick. It might not, but that's kind of what the carpet, the floor mat I'm going to put in is going to help with as well, just to get something extra on top of the carpet, to get it away from the gas pedal. And then here's a Super 77 that I'm talking about, 3M multi-purpose adhesive. This is stuff I used in college for my art projects, so I'm very, very familiar with Super 77. There's also Super 90, which I actually would have used if I had, but I had this in my garage, so I used it. You see there's kind of like a hodgepodge of scraps on the back there. That's because it's going to be covered up with that piece that's way over there. I really don't care. I just didn't want to waste anything. Underneath the top, if I can lift it really quick, we've got some assorted pieces here, and that's because there were panels that get removed. Like that goes to the fuel pump, that goes to some other fuel components that are actually in the trunk. I'm assuming that's useful for some reason, but that does come off, so I didn't want to just completely cover it up. So then I've got just kind of pieces around it to kind of help with that whole thing. You see there, I've got one of the panels that I've painted. It actually looks really good. So over here in my paint booth, I've just kind of given the plastics a dusting of flat black paint. And that's because I just didn't want to overdo it. I just wanted something on there to make it look a little bit more fresh. And I think that's mission accomplished. I may spray it with matte clear, but we'll see. One step at a time. I want to see how it looks just flat, and if I don't like it, then I'll clear it. You know, and eventually if I spray paint enough car parts on top of this TR7, it'll have a proper paint job. I mean, it'll be a hodgepodge of a paint job, but it'll be a paint job. You know, the next time I take out this stupid tray, I am going to also get out my grinder and dull the edges of this thing, because this is the second time I have cut my hand on this just today. This thing is like one giant razor blade, and I'm sick of it. So I put it back together, and while I didn't get to do all of the things that I wanted to do today, I did make the car a little bit nicer. And if I make the car just a little bit nicer every time I touch it, maybe someday, in 1,000 years, it'll be a nice car. I won't be deserving of this award anymore. Or my own reserved parking spot. Alright, so I had to cut things short on the interior because I got to do some work under the hood. Let's pop this hood and get working. So as I started taking this thing apart, and when I removed the intake tube, I discovered what could be the cause of the stumbling at idle. That right there. That is how it was connected into the box behind the whatchamacallit, mass airflow sensor. So if air was getting in through here, that is kind of akin to a vacuum leak. And the car would definitely have stumbled upon a vacuum leak. So we need to be careful when we put this back in so that this doesn't get all chewed up again. I'm going to reconnect everything, start up the car, and see if not only if the car doesn't stumble anymore, but also if the belt squeals. By the way, don't ask how I tension the belt without a tensioner bolt. Just don't ask. It's something I'm not proud of. Just don't ask. Anyway, let's put this back together. Also, before I do that, I'm going to throw on this heat shield. You see, I got a heat shield from Mike over at Oh Yeah About That down in Escondido. And it actually fits. So I'm going to put this on the car. So I tried putting the heat shield on, but it just wasn't happening. I was able to get one bolt hole lined up, and that bolt hole, by the way, has a bolt broken in it. And so I tried to use the other bolt hole, but I couldn't get it to line up. And that's when I started to tap on the thing with the rubber hammer and ended up just putting dents in the heat shield. So I got really pissed off. I took the thing off, set it aside, and then I took a close look at these headers, and these headers are bent. How does that happen? I don't even want to know. But you see there's like a spot weld here. There's a pinch down here. It's just it, and then this is just a little too far off to the right. So something went wrong, and it was repaired terribly. And unfortunately, I cannot use the heat shield. Thank you, Mike, but I think we underestimated just how shitty this car really is. So before I forget, I'm going to reconnect that ground, and then I'm going to put this intake back together. Have it all back together, and I double check to make sure that that little lip isn't getting caught in the airflow meter. It's not a mass airflow sensor, it's an airflow meter. Not really much of a difference between the two, but whatever. I also threw a bit of electrical tape because I saw just a little bit of tear on this. I don't know that that will make a difference, but just in case. So now let's start the car up, and we're going to see if the belt squeals first, and then if we're good there, we're going to take it for a drive, warm the car up, and see how it behaves at idle. So I wanted to find out why the car was stumbling at idle, and so I pulled the spark plug wire for number 1, and the car died. Then I pulled it for number 2, and the car did not die. And so I decided I was going to check compression just to make sure that I didn't have any problems there. And when I pulled the spark plug, I noticed something a little bit concerning. So I went ahead and pulled all 4 spark plugs, and the results are very weird. Now, this car only has about 4,000 miles on it since I put these spark plugs in. So I attribute this to rats living on my valve cover and peeing and pooping all over my valve cover and getting crap into the spark plugs. So I am going to first start by replacing the spark plugs because that is very, very concerning. And if I still have a stumble, then I'm going to replace the spark plug wires. The real bummer is that these are NGK iridiums. So this is expensive. I may not get iridiums if I'm going to continue to have rats on the car. Like, look at what happened. This is awful. So you see there's like little marks where the spark plug was arcing, I think. And then there's just, I don't know what is going on there. So we are back together. I have new spark plugs in here. The spark plug wires, I think, are okay. And we're going to find out just how okay they are. But I have everything back together, and I have tightened these all down. I tightened these tighter than ever before, and I think that's because without having this as tight as it is now, there was a little bit of a leak, and I wanted to make sure there was no air coming in behind the airflow meter. So I think I've resolved the stumbling. I think I have cleaned everything up and recovered from the rats ruining my car. So let's go take it for a drive and see how it goes. Alright, so I rolled the car back because the sun's behind me and it doesn't give the best lighting when it's blinding the camera. So let's start this thing up. And I have been running it for a little bit, so I'm kind of cheating just a little bit. The car is almost warm. So far, it's not stumbling at all. The idle's low, but not too low. And I noticed when I was adjusting the idle screw, it was really nice and linear. You see, when I had a leak in the system, I would adjust the idle screw, and it's like it didn't do anything. Oh, this is so much better. Oh, this is so much better. Let me see if I can adjust the camera a little bit, make it rattle less. It accelerates really nice. This is exactly what this car should be doing. And with the Dynamat on the floor of the car, it feels so much more graceful over bumps. It's not like banging a drum every time I hit a bump. It is actually quite tolerable. I really can't wait to Dynamat the doors, the insides of the doors and the trunk, because I think that's gonna make it as good as it can be. And I think it's gonna make a even more of a difference. I mean, obviously I'm hearing all of the noises of the outside with the top down, and even with the top up, it's not gonna do all that much, but the real difference is in how it sounds going over bumps. It sounds so much less painful, even though the body is still flexing all as much as it was before. So this really bodes well for future projects such as frame rail braces and other chassis stiffening braces. I think that's going to be a really good next step here, because now it's not going to sound nearly as awful going over bumps. Oh, this is so much better. And I'm driving really slow and the car isn't bucking. Let's pay special attention to it after I accelerate off of this stop sign. Let's just kind of, just for a minute, go like we're going in traffic. There's a car coming up behind me. I'm going to let him go. He's actually stopping on the side of the road too. Okay. Oh yeah, this is so much smoother. I mean, even my wife was complaining about this, and I was feeling it too. I mean, so when you drop your foot off the gas, it does kind of give a little bit of a herky-jerky, and also when you get back on it. But it's not like that. It's not throwing you around. So this is I'm considering it fixed. Between that and the improvement in the sounds we're hearing underneath the car when we go over bumps, I'd say for a day's work, this is fantastic. I am so happy with this. I mean, so we made the car a little more livable. We made it look a little bit better on the inside with the paint. We resolved the vacuum leak, which was causing the car to buck, and it was causing the idle to run really rough. Also replaced the spark plugs just for good measure, because I mean, it kind of pains me because they were iridium, but at the same time they were ruined. You saw them, they were ruined. And also while we were in there, we topped off the air pressure in the tires, topped off the oil. This is a great car. I did not have, obviously, the time to do the head unit, and we kind of struck out with that exhaust header heat shield. Really bummed that on top of having that thing not fit, I put some dents in it. I am really, really bummed about that. But that's the nature of the game. Maybe I can give it to someone else for free who isn't going to mind a couple of little dents. Maybe they'll be able to pop that out with a ball peen hammer. I'm sure it's not that big of a deal. It's just a couple of little bumps, little dimples. I really do want to replace the steering wheel. Maybe some more interior work when I come back to the dashboard project or the head unit project. Maybe I can put a gnarly wheel in this or something, because this steering wheel kind of feels disgusting in what is otherwise a not as terrible car as it was before. And also removing the house insulation underneath the carpet next to the gas pedal. I have nothing to worry about now with my gas pedal sticking behind the carpet. I also sprayed it with Super 77, weighed it down so that it would hopefully maybe stick, but I think now that there's just less material behind it and there's more material pushing it into the transmission tunnel, I think it's gonna be fine. Yeah, this is great. Well, I think we should call this a win and quit while we're ahead. This was a good day. This was a great day. If you enjoyed this video, if you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, comment. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you're the previous owner and you don't like being trash talked all the time every time I make a video on your old car. If that's you, that's one person in this world, potentially 2 or 3 or 10 or 20. This maybe have been a 20 owner car. I don't know. But we learned a whole lot about this car in these past few days. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me on this little journey, and I will see you in the next video.